Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news. Fans have always been curious about Tim Malcolm. He was a man of many layers. Many people misjudged him, but he was quite conscious of who he was. His nails were polished, his hair was neat, and he was serene. He had loved and lost. And he had learned the hard way that not every relationship is intended to last. Tiffany Franco was also brave, gorgeous, and not hesitant to say what she thought. She had struggled for love in other countries, given up everything for her kids, and gone through grief more times than anyone should have to. They were never in the same season. Their storylines didn't cross paths on television, but there was something that they couldn't see or deny that was drawing them together. Something that no producer could write. Something that no fan could have guessed. Months before anyone else knew about it, the story began quietly. Tiffany had just finished an emotional Instagram Live video in which she talked to fans about co-parenting, losing weight, and mental health. Her typically cheerful tone had decreased by the end. Her grin had faded, and you could see the tiredness in her eyes. She didn't know that Tim was observing. He didn't say anything. He didn't like the movie. But he sent her a private message later. Tim, you were very brave tonight. I understand how hard it is to be open with someone you don't know. Respect. She was shocked and glanced at the message for a few seconds. She hadn't talked to Tim very much. Sure, they'd sent each other nice DMs before, but this was different. There was a warmth and a sense of familiarity, as if he had genuinely seen her, and not just the image she put on for social media. Tiffany, thanks, that means a lot. This week has been hard. What began as a brief response turned into a long conversation that lasted for hours. They made fun of how crazy filming was, how strange it was to be famous, and the trolls who left nasty comments. But there was something deeper, shared grief, similar experiences, and an understanding that neither of them expected to find in each other. Weeks went by. The messages turned into calls late at night. The late-night calls morphed into long FaceTime sessions. And with each talk, they opened up a bit more to one another. At first, Tim wasn't sure. He had been hurt before, in front of everyone. He had become a meme, a joke, and even a subject of internet bullying. The thought of getting into another high-profile romance made him sick. But Tiffany was not like that. She didn't want to get attention. She didn't want to make him like her. She was only being honest. She talked about Daniel, her kid, and how hard it was to raise him by herself. She told him how much she still loved him, even if it hurt. Tim didn't move. He didn't make a judgment. He paid attention. And then he opened up too, talking about his complicated past with relationships, his identity, and how he felt like he had to be someone he wasn't. He didn't have to act with Tiffany. He didn't have to fight back. He might simply be. Tiffany flew to Charlotte for a weekend trip one night in March. They had talked about it lightly for weeks, but neither of them was sure if they were ready to go from virtual to real. But when she got off the plane and saw him waiting at the terminal with a coffee in one hand and a worried smile on his face, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. They didn't hug right away. They just stood there, grinning awkwardly with their hearts racing. Tiffany finally spoke up. So this is strange. Tim laughed. Yeah, but in a good way. They didn't do anything special during the weekend, just walked about the city, ate takeout on the couch, and watched a lot of true crime shows. But something did happen while things were calm. There was an electric ease between them, and the tension was real yet soothing. Tiffany put her head on his shoulder as they sat in his living room on Sunday night and watched the rain. They didn't say anything. They didn't have to. He took her to the airport the next morning. She turned to him before she got on. Do you know this changes things? He nodded. Yes. I don't want to run away from it anymore. What came next was a romance that grew slowly but surely in the shadows. They weren't concealing, but they weren't showing it off either. This love was fragile and holy, and it needed to be protected. They talked on FaceTime every night, took covert trips to each other's cities, and slowly and on purpose learnt about one another's life. One night, Tiffany set up a video conference between Tim and Daniel. The boy said, "Mom always smiles when she talks to you." Tim grinned. She makes it easy. Tiffany's heart stopped. After her breakup, she had dated several men, but none of them had tried to understand her childlike way. Tim took Tiffany to meet his sister and niece at the same time. They had seen him get through difficult breakups and stay hopeful, But the way he talked about Tiffany was different. Less hard. More sure. He told his sister, "She gets me. Really gets me. I didn't think I'd see that again." But even the best love stories have dark parts. When eagle-eyed followers saw that Tim and Tiffany had the same background on their Instagram stories, rumors started to spread. There was a lot of speculation. Was this just a way to get attention? A move for PR? A trick to get a franchise? Tim freaked out. He was scared at the thought of being back under the microscope. But Tiffany was peaceful. She said to him, "We don't owe them anything. Let them speak. We know what's true." She could still see the anxiety in his eyes, the fear of being wrong, misunderstood, or made fun of. They stayed on the phone all night until the sun came up. Tiffany told him she wasn't going anywhere. Tim pledged to cease hiding in return. They put the picture up the next day. A basic, black and white moment that was very personal. Tim stood behind Tiffany with his arms around her waist and their cheeks close together. It was hard to see her grin. He looked happy. The caption was short. "This is real. Red heart," and that's how the secret got out. The world reacted as it always does, with noise. Some people cheered. Some people weren't sure. Some people were confused. But Tim and Tiffany stayed strong through it all. The next week, they had a joint interview on a well-known podcast. Tiffany remarked, grasping his hand, "We didn't plan this. It wasn't a planned move. It just occurred, and we did what it said." Tim said, "We both know what it's like to have relationships end in front of other people. We've been through it. We didn't want that to happen again. We only wanted the truth." They talked about mending, setting limits, and the quiet effort of developing something real behind the scenes. They were older now, more wise, more concerned with emotional safety, and less interested in fairy tale visuals. Tim asked Tiffany and Daniel to come to Charlotte for a few weeks in April. They lived together for the first time, in an unauthorized, embarrassing, and lovely way. Tiffany made dinner. Tim did the cleaning. Daniel and Tim became friends over comic books and electronic devices while playing video games. No fireworks. No big fights. Only 3 people learning how to live in each other's world. Tiffany sat outside on the porch one night after dinner and watched Daniel chase fireflies in the yard. Tim came over and gave her a glass of wine. He said, "He's a good kid. He means everything to me," she said. Tim glanced at her with loving eyes. "You're right." The bond grew stronger as spring moved into summer. They went to New York for a reunion of the cast of 90 Day. Everyone was looking at them. The whispers were so loud they hurt. But Tim and Tiffany went in together, holding hands, with their heads held high and giggling between awkward looks from their castmates. People wanted to know things. "When did this happen? Is it bad? Are you getting married?" They smiled politely. They didn't have to give responses. The affection was enough of an answer. June was the roughest month. Tiffany got a new work offer that would require her to travel a lot, and maybe even move. She was in a bind. That night, on a roof in Charlotte, Sarah and Tim had their first genuine argument. Voices got louder. Emotions were high. Tim remarked, "You said you wanted stability. How are we supposed to grow if you're always going somewhere new? And you said you were behind my career." Tiffany shot back, "Don't make me choose between my future and love. Be quiet. The sort that hurts." Tim finally looked at her, and his voice was calmer now. He said, "I'm scared. I've never had anything this good before, and I'm frightened I'll lose it." Tiffany's face relaxed. She moved closer and put a hand on his chest. "You aren't losing me. I just need to know that we can deal with real life, not just the good bits." So they came to an agreement. She got the job. He was there for her. They made plans to see each other, made time for each other, and kept choosing each other even when it was hard. Because real love is made in the terrible times. They were stronger than ever by July. They put up another picture, this time of the 3 of them, Tim, Tiffany, and Daniel, at a tiny fair outside. No glitz. No filtering. Only smiles. Joy that is real and not contrived. The caption said, "Family isn't always where you came from. Sometimes it's where you end up." Fans didn't just cheer for them. They threw parties for them. There were a lot of comments. "I've never seen Tim so calm and happy. Tiffany needs someone who loves her like this. This is the most real love story this series has ever had." But they still watered their garden in secret. They read books to each other, went to therapy, had tough conversations, gave each other room for their past. They weren't in a hurry to get a ring. They weren't after the news. They were making things. Every day. Tiffany whispered in the dark one night. Do you think we were always meant to find each other? As summer turned into fall. Tim pulled her closer and said softly, No, I believe we had to change into the individuals we are now, so that we would be ready when we did. And at that moment, everything made sense. The heartbreaks, the holdups, the mistakes. They had come here for everything. To something real. To someplace that finally felt like home. This gossip is over. If you liked the video, then give your opinion in the comment box and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.